Hi, my name is Michael, and you're about to learn why the stories you love are garbage. And today we're going to talk about Legends and Lattes. 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 Whatever. Yes, we're talking about stories, not just movies. So, the premise of this book is quite nice. An orc, after having their fair share of fighting, decides to settle down and open a coffee shop. It follows one of the great sources of inspiration, which is take a fantasy world and try to figure how it works. Like, the whole race of orcs can't all be barbarian mercenaries, right? So, what if one goes into business? First, let's get something out of the way. You would expect the author of a book about coffee shop to know something about coffee. He doesn't. He thinks the only kind of a coffee shop is Starbucks. It's not. He thinks making coffee requires a machine. It doesn't. All you need is something like this. People were making coffee in those things for centuries before coffee machines were a thing. By the way, this is not from a Jesuit. It's instant. Yes, I drink instant coffee and I know more about coffee than that book. Now, one of the requirements for a story, any kind of story, is that the main character should face difficulties. It's usually referred to as conflict, but I don't really like this word. It sounds like it has to be a conflict between two people or more. But it can be, for example, a struggle for survival in a hostile environment. Anyway, from that premise, we can easily see some of the problems our orc can face. Low-hanging fruits, if you will. The most obvious one is fantastic racism. In fantasy, orcs aren't usually loved universally. So an orc might scare off customers, get boycotted by suppliers who just don't want to deal with such a filthy creature, have problems with the town administration, and so on. The other one is general business ineptitude of our orc. Again, orcs aren't known for being entrepreneurs. So maybe our orc is a she, maybe she opens a coffee shop and nobody shows up. Maybe she only cares about ordering a new batch of supplies after the previous one runs out. Maybe another coffee shop is just around the corner.
Location, pedestrian traffic.
Now, let's see what are the problems that Viv, the protagonist of Legends and Lattes, faces. There are none. Seriously. Viv being an orc just doesn't matter. Okay, she's strong, and so converting a place into a coffee shop, it used to be stables, is somewhat easier for her. But that's it. Nobody cares that she's an orc. Not her customers, not her suppliers, not the guy that sells her the building. Nobody. And Viv being inexperienced also doesn't impede her. The author tells us explicitly that the new business should be expected not to turn any profit for months, maybe years, and then shows that to Viv's business it doesn't really apply. After just a few days, the coffee shop becomes extremely popular. Viv's situation never gets, well, forget desperate, it never gets problematic. She does forget advertising at first, for example, but this issue gets solved before it even becomes an issue. She does apply a few tweaks, but only to improve something that's already doing great. Where is the story? We don't even get any kind of competition. It's explicitly stated that dwarfs who make the coffee machines in the book and run coffee shops in another town, they don't move here to open a shop of their own. No explanation as to why, but at least it's lampshaded. You might say that the book is supposed to be super cozy, it can't have huge stakes, except it can. Buford Scales series, for example, is also very cozy, but the climax of each book can have the characters fighting for their lives. And the stakes don't have to be huge, they have to be important for the characters, but not necessarily objectively big. If the threat of losing the shop was there from the beginning, it would be a whole different story. But instead, in an attempt to make something resembling a plot, the author gives us A, the mob, and B, Viv's former colleague. So let's take a look. First of all, as I said, we have the local mob running a protection racket.
There's no need to do that.
They demand that Viv pays them, and she's quite reluctant to both comply and alternatively fight them off, which is understandable. Notice, however, that it's not that Viv can't do either. She can. She just doesn't want to. That already weakens the plot by a lot. So, she summons her old band of adventurers. She has no idea how they can help and calls them just in case. Okay. And the outcome of it is that one of the band reveals that he has some connections and arranges a meeting between Viv and the mob boss. Does it seem like a waste to you? The whole gang, minus one, assembled to help Viv, and only one of them got to do something. And the ultimate solution is that Viv agrees to send the mob boss some coffee and snacks every day. Can somebody please explain to me how it is different from just paying? Then the second problem is that one member of Viv's old band. He's apparently a douchebag who was never close to others and was only tolerated in the band due to his exceptional skills. He wants something from Viv. See, Viv picked something during the last adventure, a certain amulet that is supposed to bring good luck. That guy thinks it's unfair and wants the amulet for himself. This could lead to a decent plot. But unfortunately, he shows up very late in the story. It's not like Viv has to constantly protect her shop against him, at the same time trying to deal with the mobsters. No. He's more of an afterthought. And although he does better than anybody else, he actually burns the shop down, there just isn't enough of him. It's like at the end the author remembered, oh damn, I need something to happen, and slapped the burning down of a shop onto a book with no events. This is something of a trend, actually. See, early on, Viv hires an assistant, a succubus named Tandri. And so when later in the book the author again suddenly remembered, oh damn, I should insert some fantastic racism, he made Tandri be its victim, and not Viv herself. And it's revealed in a flashback with Tandri talking about how she joined the university and studied magic, but the staff and other students didn't want a succubus in their midst and so made her go away. And she doesn't even provide any specifics regarding how exactly they made her go away. And it happened in the university of all places. I don't know about you, but I would expect colleges to be more accepting than average.
Yes, I am a lesbian.
Well, it's good that you're so open about it.
In this book, however, everybody is very accepting, except the university. Speaking of Tandri, there is a romantic subplot between her and Viv, and I really don't understand why is it even there. It's not relevant to the story for sure. I mean, yes, Tandri helps Viv rebuild the coffee shop after the fire, but so does everybody else, including the mob boss. I'm fine with romance, but I'd prefer to have some kind of a point. Now, at the end, the bad guy, Viv's former colleague, gets away with the amulet. But somebody, I forgot who, points out that the amulet doesn't actually bring good luck, which could have explained the coffee shop's instant success, but brings like-minded people together. And given how bad the bad guy is, he would likely attract others who are just as bad, which would significantly lower his life expectancy. That would be a nice way to finish the story, but the author tried to have his cake and eat it too. After all those sentiments, we get a scene where this guy is unceremoniously killed by a giant cat that used to sleep in the coffee shop. It comes from nowhere and undermines the previous message about karmic revenge. It was a premise ripe of potential, but all of that potential went to waste. And it's really sad. That's all I have to say. We'll see you next time. Bye.